Hi, it's Carrie Kenner, and welcome to my weekly vlog. This episode, I'm going to be talking about getting started and finding my voice. This is dedicated to my mom. My mom was born in 1929, and women weren't known for having voices during that time. She didn't have a voice, but she found a beautiful way to express herself through music. She was an extremely accomplished violinist. And she also found a way to do things a little bit differently than most women were expected to in those days. She left her hometown to study and got a degree in music. She got a pretty sexy little sports car and traveled even further away from home. And she worked and supported herself, and I think had quite a bit of fun until she met my dad when she was 28. So she married late, she had kids late. And she was one of those moms who seemed pretty hip from the outside, but one of her mottos at home was, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And that was a motto that the refrain still reverberates in my brain when I'm frustrated with somebody or thinking negative thoughts. So when I came along, I too was quiet. I was very reserved. I was very observant. I think my natural gift and my favorite thing to do was to watch people, just to sit back and watch. And I was praised for how quiet I was because I never caused any problems. I would just sit back and watch. So when I was a young girl in school, I was ideal because of my quietness and my going along with the flow and my not saying anything if I didn't have anything nice to say. So when did I find my voice and how? It was in high school, and I met a young man who became my partner for 10 years, the father of my first two children. And he exposed me to information about the African diaspora. He introduced me to Malcolm X and Stokely Carmichael and Marcus Garvey and all these incredible voices of Black activists of the day. And I would read these books and learn these things about history that I had never even heard of before. Um, I remember being assigned a book report to do in my history class, and we were told to find a person of historical renown and give a book report. And I wanted to do mine on Sojourner Truth, and my high school's teacher said, "Well, that's not a historical figure." It's like, yeah, she is. And so I started to find my voice and represent these new ideas that I was learning about. And one really impactful moment was shortly after that. I was still in high school and we were having dinner with my family. And my dad was talking about something about history, presidents, I don't know. And I shot out, Thomas Jefferson was a slave owner. I was adamant about how this, president who's so highly respected was not just this good guy. And my dad looked at me and started laughing. He thought that my passion was humorous, maybe like playful. And it silenced me again. But one thing I've learned is that when you silence people, the words, the thoughts, the ideas, they don't go away. They just go inside. And when things are inside, a number of things can happen. They're often gestating into a new form. I think of it as that time is my body went looking for a microphone, a way that I was going to be able to express these ideas that were germinating inside of me, the injustice that I'd seen in the world since I was just a little kid, and that I had to find my way to express what I felt was important, what I wanted people to know about. So I started reading feminist literature and many more things by amazing Black authors like James Baldwin and Richard Wright, and looking into the works that weren't shown to white kids in the 1970s that should have been and that are still being even debated today, which is just crazy because these are all examples of voices that people who found their voices and have important things to say, and the ways in which these voices can get silenced. So, one of the things that was happening to me during that time is that I wanted to be a mother. I wanted to be a mother, like seriously, wanted to be a mother when I was 14. Now, I knew that it would probably be a good idea if I waited. And so I did, but I graduated when I was 16. I went to art school because that's the way I was going to find my voice. I was an artist and did a lot of graphic arts and visual arts as a form of expression. Didn't know that that's what I was doing, but that's that in retrospect, that's exactly what I was doing. And so I went to art school and then I finished that and I started working and I was 18 and it was like, okay, I'm old enough now to have a baby. And so I did. And because of the reading that I'd been doing and this, inner voice gestating, I decided I was going to have my baby at home. And this was 1979, and midwives were barely legal in the state of Washington. And home birth wasn't a thing that people talked about. And even though it's still less than 1% of people in the United States have their babies at home, it was way, 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 way less than that then. And there was no internet, there was no way to look up midwives. Some of you may have heard the story of how I found my midwife, but I did find midwives. And so when I gave birth, I was surrounded by midwives. And here's some pictures. And this is my midwife supporting me. And this is me and my partner seeing our baby for the first time. This is my mom, my partner's mom, seeing their first grandchild. And this is me when I found the passion for what I do today. This is how I got started as a doula. That moment that I became a mother, I had no idea how transforming the experience of birth was going to be. In that moment, I felt I could do anything, anything. And that has served me so well for the rest of my life. Anytime I'm in a predicament, anytime I question my ability to accomplish something, to endure something, to figure something out, I call upon that experience of transformation where I had made a human being and found out my way to bring that human being into the world. And I did it. I wanted to be like my midwives for other people. I wanted to bring that same sense of empowerment that they gave to me, this 18-year-old little girl. Look at the baby face there. They believed in me. And I believed anybody could do this. If I could do it, anybody could do it. I didn't think I was that special. I didn't become a midwife. I had a baby. I had another baby less than 2 years later. I was a pretty poor single mom for many years until I found out about doulas 20 years later. 20 years after my first son was born, I found out about doulas, and that's when I became one. After I became a doula and then a doula trainer, my mom came to watch me during one of my doula trainings. She was there for a couple of hours, and so she would see me teach people about the birth process and how to be a doula. And afterwards, she stood up and she talked to all the students and she said, "You may not believe this, but my little Carrie used to be the quietest little girl. She never had anything to say. She'd never cause any problems. So when I see her standing up here today, totally in her element, so articulate and knowledgeable, she has found her voice. And I am so proud. One year, I was invited to speak to a group of medical students at Oregon State University about doulas. And the day of the lecture was on my mom's birthday. So took my mom down to Oregon, and we went to the college, and I was in an auditorium with like 400 medical students, and I'm giving this lecture, and my mom's sitting there in the audience, and she's just blown away. Like, how can my little Carrie, who was so quiet, be standing here in front of medical students and teaching them about doulas? My mom was my biggest fan. She would tell everyone about doulas. And she like seemed to attract doulas because she would be talking with somebody and ask if they knew what a doula was, and they would say, "Yeah, actually, I'm a doula." And she would say, "Do you know my daughter, Carrie Kenner?" And they would say, "Yeah, she was my trainer," or Yes, I know her very well." And my mom then couldn't wait to call and tell me about the newest doula that she had ran into, and also all the doula converts she had created. So my mom believed in me, even when my dad laughed at me. And she supported me in finding my voice. And boy, was she tickled when I did. So I want you to think about, what are those moments where a seed was planted that turned into something huge, impactful, important, defining for you, perhaps? Because those are the things that we want to grab onto. Those are those beginning moments. We don't know when they're happening. When I was sitting there holding my newborn baby, I wasn't thinking, I'm going to be a doula someday, and I want to train doulas, and I want to become a business coach for doulas. All I knew was I could do anything. I have since been known for my ability to manifest ideas. And I want to kind of tell you how I look at the process of manifesting, what I think is the secret process. So, what comes into existence starts out as an idea. I had an idea about a book report that I wanted to write. I had an idea about becoming a mother. I had an idea about helping people find empowerment through birth. These are all just concepts. There were thoughts in my head. There was nothing tangible about them. But then I would work with those thoughts until a more clearly formed idea came, and then I would speak it. I would tell somebody about this idea. Because when we put our ideas to words and we put those words out there, that's when the energy starts to spread. And when you think of cultures where nothing is real if it's not a story, if it's not part of the oral tradition, that's the power of words. Everything was transmitted from the way we communicate from one person to another. So if you have an idea of something that you want to bring to reality, you have to speak it. You have to tell somebody else. You got to say, it's just like the power of the difference between saying a prayer in your head versus saying a prayer out loud. It's like when you walk in nature and you look around and you see these beautiful things, speak that. Oh my gosh, tree, look at you. Look at how deeply rooted. Look at this wound that you have that you've survived. Look at these leaves that you've shared. Oh, earth, look at how moist and fragrant you are. You know, whatever you've seen that's a beauty, say it. It makes it so much more powerful, that gratitude, that reverence. And the same with our ideas. Give them the respect of being able to share them out loud. Then the word turns into action. And that's when we start to do something. We've taken this idea, we've put it into words, we've put those words out there. And now we're going to do something with it. We're going to start to make that come into the tangible. We're going to do the work to bring it to life. And part of that, what's happening of creating that thing and bringing it to life, is working with the energy of the universe. We're not making every single thing happen. There's all these other factors and influencers that are happening. But it's the combination of that idea and speaking the word and working with all these other energies and taking the actions that helps us go from this notion, this seed, this thing that we didn't even know what it was, just this in feeling, this passion, and turning it into something beautiful in our lives. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. This is my first vlog of 2024. And I wanted to start here at this place of beginnings, this place of finding our seed, our self, our voice, and then bringing that into fruition. And it's a theme I'm going to be using over the next couple of months, is that process of manifesting. And I hope you'll come along with me. Bye. See you next week.